Friday edition of PFT PM. It is June the 20th, one day short of the longest day of the year. This will be one of the shortest PFT PMs because there really isn't a lot happening, but I was still committed to doing it, making amends for the fact that I missed Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, boom, boom, boom. Shedeur Sanders. Let's start there, shall we? Yesterday, and I wasn't really defending him per se. My points as it related to the news that he had a speeding ticket, one speeding ticket, was we've all had a speeding ticket. And if we haven't, we've all exceeded the posted speed limit at some point. We've all been tempted to see what it feels like to go 100 miles an hour or 88. See if you travel back to 1955. And again, I don't condone it in traffic, in any type of unsafe situation, at night, when it's wet, anything other than a fairly straight road. But when the word came out yesterday that going 101 in a 60 was not the first, but the second infraction of the month for Shedeur Sanders. Previously, he was going 91 and a 65. June 5 was that incident. June 16 was an arraignment that he failed to show up for. No big deal. Pays $250 and moves on. But the next day, he gets hit going 101. So I've had, I think, 3 speeding tickets, which isn't bad for driving for what? How old am I now? How many? 16 minus 46, 40 years of driving? Has it been 40, 45? Shit, I don't know. 44 years of driving. Okay. 3 tickets in 44 years isn't bad. But in the aftermath of getting each of my tickets, I was careful. And when I got my 3 tickets, I was not in, the public eye. Shedeur Sanders is as deep into the public eye as he can be. He was only a week and a half removed from getting his last speeding ticket, and he's going 101 and a 60. That just speaks to a lack of awareness. You got to understand how your behavior is going to result in consequences. And look, the brain isn't fully formed until we're 25. It's one of the reasons why the insurance goes down when you hit 25. We don't fully appreciate the connection between our actions and the reactions to our actions, the consequences of our conduct. I get all that. But after everything Shedeur Sanders has been through, you'd think that he would have figured it out by now. You don't need these unforced errors, and that's what these are. 1, fine. 2, come on, man. What are we doing here? Why are you giving the haters low-hanging fruit? And then when you look at the video that was posted by the Daily Mail, I don't think it's the whole video, but it's clear from the video that was posted, his girlfriend was driving in a separate car, and she was going 92, and he was going 101. Now, were they racing? I don't know. There's no suggestion they were racing, but they're a couple in 2 separate cars, and one's going 101 and one's going 92, and they're close enough together that they were both clocked at the same time, both pulled over at the same time. She didn't get a ticket. He did because he was in excess of 100 miles an hour. It's just kind of odd. And then last night, Thursday night, he was at teammate David Njoku's charity softball game, and Shedeur said, basically, I made a mistake and I'll own up to it. I'll defer to his exact quote, but it's not the words. The words on paper or on your screen, which is how we consume most of the content nowadays. Do we even use paper anymore? The words seem fine. The delivery just seemed like a big joke to him. And I'm trying to defend the guy. I'm trying to support the guy. The way that he delivered it is all like a big joke. Now, hey, treat it however you want. But if you get another speeding ticket, it's only going to get worse. If you get another one after that, he's looking at potential suspension of his license for 6 months, which just becomes a major pain in his ass. These are just things that he needs to avoid. These are issues he doesn't need right now when he should be focused fully and completely on getting himself ready to go to training camp and compete with the other 3 quarterbacks on the Browns roster to become the starter or close to the starter. Anything other than 1 or 2 going into the season is a failure for Shedeur Sanders. Right now, he's 4 out of 4. It's just a bad situation for him. And whatever the reason for his slide, all the way down to pick number 144, that doesn't matter. What matters is everything you do from this point forward. That was the message from guys like Tom Brady. That's the reasonable, responsible reaction to what happened. And you get ticketed a couple of days apart for driving 91 in a 65 and then 101 in a 60, which tells me he just drives that fast all the time. He just happened to get caught twice. Because I've only been caught 3 times. And I've exceeded the posted speed limit by more than 10 miles. Much more than 3 times. Now, I don't know how many times I've actually pushed it over 100. Not as many as you would think. Because that's something that, again, you only need to do it or should do it or consider doing it in very, very, very safe situations where you're in full control of the vehicle and there's no one else around. I can't emphasize that enough because it is risky behavior, even though your speedometer goes up to 180. And for some vehicles, a couple of which I have owned over the years, the faster you go, the faster it wants to go. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying that's the reality. But my point is this. If he's had 2 tickets in 12 days, it's probably not the only 2 times he's exceeded the speed limit by anywhere from 25 to 40 miles per hour this month. If those are the only 2 times he pushed it past the posted speed limit, he's got bad luck. So he just needs to change his behavior. If he can't drive more slowly, he needs to not drive at all. Take an Uber. Hire somebody to be your driver. Never be behind the wheel. You may get to that point. My estimation of the total points against his license under the relevant Ohio formula is 6 points. 12 points gets you a 6-month suspension. He's halfway there. So hopefully he learns from it, and hopefully it's not just words. Hopefully he's not going to be guy who does whatever he wants, and then when it hits the fan, he'll be guy who says whatever he has to say to get through that awkward moment, but really doesn't care. And that's what bothered me about the demeanor that was reflected. And I'm sorry, I'm being real here. I don't want Dion to call me a hater, and we had a nice conversation at the Super Bowl. I'm just trying to be real. It didn't seem like he was being serious when he said what he said last night. Let's hope he is being serious about it. Let's hope that he has voices, influences who can tell him what he needs to hear. And this may all go back to not having an agent. If he'd had an agent in the pre-draft process, a good agent, that agent would have said, you got to take this seriously. You're not being recruited, you're being interviewed. You have to check every box, you have to dot every I, you have to cross every T. Maybe he needs a presence like that now. A conscience, a Jiminy Cricket, somebody who will ride him to make the right decisions and to take situations seriously. That's what doomed him during the draft. He didn't take it seriously. He didn't seem in the video I saw last night to be taking the situation seriously following a pair of speeding tickets. Will he take the opportunity that he has available to him seriously? Show up early, stay late, work and work and work and work. Strive to improve. You be friendly with your teammates / competitors, but you also want to beat them. And you're going to put in every ounce of effort, every minute of time in an effort to emerge as the best of the 4 quarterbacks. It's up to him. It's up to him. See how it goes. See how it goes this year in San Francisco. I think they're in a great spot because the general vibe is they're on the decline. There's no pressure, no expectations. They didn't make it to the playoffs last year, so they didn't have a lengthy postseason, more wear and tear, shortened opportunity to get ready for 2025. Players gone. Just kind of a weird, where are they? Now, I know that the betting markets have them as the favorites to win the NFC West, but I think the general vibe for many is, And I think that plays right into their hands, especially with defensive coordinator Robert Saleh coming back. And George Kittle says the violence will be back on the San Francisco team. And that's the thing that set them apart from other teams in the Shanahan era. And I think this is where John Lynch's experience as a hard-nosed, rough-and-tumble player has helped him identify guys who have his same mentality. So you can draft a guy later in the process like a Kittle who comes in with that mindset of, I'm going to roll out of bed and I'm going to run through a wall. Now, the reality is, if you play that way, you probably are more likely to get injured, but they'd rather have all their guys wired to play that way. And with Saleh back, that may be a recapturing of the mood that existed as the 49ers under Shanahan and Lynch first kind of emerged into prominence. They made it to a Super Bowl without Saleh, but they still haven't won one. And now I just think when you look at the schedule, all the teams of the NFC West play the 4 teams of the AFC South, the 4 teams of the NFC South. The 49ers finished in 4th place. So for 3 games that hinge on where you finished, they get the best draw of any of the 4 teams in the NFC West. They could fatten up their record this year. There's a lot of winnable games on the 49ers schedule. They could be the 1 seed. They are the Rams, I think. Could be, maybe will be. Maybe if I had to pick the 1 seed, if I had to guess who the 1 seed is going to be in 2025 in the NFC, I'd say it's the winner of the NFC West. And it's likely to be the 49ers or the Rams. So Saleh is back. Don't sleep on the 49ers. Don't sleep on the Rams. This is one of those years where it all lines up. Thanks to that rotation in the schedule, it all lines up for those teams to have winnable games. And we know somebody's going to win the division, obviously, but you want that 1 seed. You want that bye. You want to rest up. You want to force the road to San Francisco to go through San Francisco. Wouldn't that be something if the 49ers end up hosting the Super Bowl this year? They're hosting it. They end up playing in it. Be the 3rd time. We went a long time. We went 55. Well, 54 without. 55 it happened. 56 it happened. It may happen in number 60. The New Orleans Saints won Super Bowl 44. It has been a long time ago. And back in those days, Rita Benson LeBlanc, the granddaughter of the late Tom Benson, was regarded as the heir to the throne, the presumed successor. Something happened in 2012. She got suspended by her grandfather, and then by early 2015, she was out of the picture altogether. Lawsuits happened. 2016, the lawsuits were resolved, and she said, moving forward, she will still own part of the team. And that's been the weird part of this story, that she was arrested in South Carolina for pushing a parking enforcement officer who was trying to put a boot on her car. Assaulted, allegedly, was the parking enforcement officer. Arrested, actually, was Rita Benson LeBlanc. Spent the night in jail, released on her own recognizance on Tuesday after the Monday incident. If she's still a partial owner of the Saints, that's a league matter. And I asked the Saints, and I was told, ask the league. Usually when you ask the league something about a team, you get asked the team. I asked the team something about a team, and I got asked the league. And I've asked the league, and we're doing the dance. Let me see if I've gotten a response. You know how this goes. I've explained this before. I got to ask them once and they ignore me. I ask them twice and they ignore me. And then I got to remember to ask a 3rd time, and they'll say no comment, or I don't know what they'll say. I think it's a fair question. Does she still own part of the team? She said as of 2016 that she would own part of the team once the settlement of the litigation that was filed following her ouster was ended. And if she still owns part of the team and she's facing criminal charges, she should be facing some sort of discipline under the personal conduct policy. And why is that relevant? Because there's this nagging sense of a double standard between owners who get in trouble away from the game and players who get in trouble away from the game. I have a whole section in Playmakers from 2022 about owners who have gotten in trouble, and you could argue were not punished or pursued as aggressively as players are punished when they get in trouble. So what's going to happen? What will happen? First, we have to know whether or not she still owns part of the team. If the answer is no, that's an easy question to respond to. No, she doesn't. Next question. So I feel like she still does, but nobody wants to say it. Regardless, the arrest happened, the charges are pending, and if there's any equity, if there's any fairness, if there isn't a double standard, the league needs to investigate and discipline the same way the league would do to a player who was arrested for assaulting a parking enforcement officer. It's that simple. So we'll see what happens. All right, light on the topics today. Again, I'm not just gonna make something up because we're light on the topics. We're light on the topics. So we get to the questions. Carlos Rosales. Should the NFL be worried about the recent early retirement of the handful of players around the league if it wants to keep adding regular season games in the future? Who's retired early? Have I missed something? I remember back when Chris Borland retired after 1 year with the 49ers due to concerns about concussions. And that became oh no, that's the canary in the coal mine. All these players are going to retire early. And for a while, like anytime anybody would retire under the age of 35, there's another one. There's another one retiring early. Oh no. Come on. The supply of willing participants in the game of professional football dwarfs the number of spots available. So if guys are going to retire early, there's still going to be players. I don't know of any current rash of players retiring early. A lot of times a guy retires because he knows he's not going to make the kind of money he's used to making. And then you'll have the retirement that comes like a year or two after the player hasn't been signed by anyone. That's the Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense retirement. That's the last guy to realize he's already been retired. So, you know my metaphor. Football team is a machine made up of interchangeable parts, and those parts will be changed. Just a question of when and how. Retirement, put the part out, new part in. Trade, take the part out, new part in. Cut. Hey, we have a part out there that is newer and cheaper and just as good. Let's take out the more expensive part and put the younger and cheaper part in. There's a dehumanization to the process. And I've said this before, anytime I've been in a team facility, and I've been in a few over the years, they let me in. I sneak past the guard. And you see the room that has the lists. You got the depth chart, current team, and then you've got the list of guys you'll call when you have needs for every position. And they're just pieces of a puzzle, interchangeable parts in that giant football machine. So early retirement, late retirement, any retirement, piece goes out, new piece goes in. That's the way it's always been. And there will always be more players ready and willing to go than there are spots. There's 8 teams fully staffed of UFL franchises. Any of those guys would leap at the opportunity to make it to an NFL 53-man roster. They're signing whenever they can to a 90-man roster just for the chance to compete, to go from 90 to 53. Supply, demand, not an issue, and I doubt that it ever will be. Next question, while not sending a message to Dion or Shedeur, could the draft slide have been about sending a message to college players who, flush with NIL money, may not want to cooperate with the current draft structure in the future? I don't think so. I think it's a byproduct of the current NIL structure. And I think there's a lot of factors that went into it. But ultimately, as I said a little while ago, Shedeur Sanders did not take the process seriously. Dion apparently didn't either. He didn't have to. Dion was a rare talent. Dion was going to be a top 5 pick no matter what. Look at that class in 1989. Troy Aikman, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, Deion Sanders, Tony Mandarich. Which doesn't belong and why? What 4 Hall of Famers out of the top 5 and a Hall of Fame all-time bust in the top 5 in 1989. Poor Packers. They got the short straw there. They took Mandarich. Oh, well. But Shedeur, look, could he have willed his way toward the top of the draft if he had done everything that teams expect? I don't know. He would have been higher than number 144. You can only get away with being nonchalant and lackadaisical about the pre-draft process if you are an unquestioned talent that a team will pounce on, because so much of it is, and Chris and I talk about this probably every year, So much of it is CYA. It's why the teams obsess over the measurables. You want to be able to say when a guy busts, well, he ran a 4.42 40, or he did this, he did that. We had no reason to think he might be a bust. When you start going beyond the boundaries of what's normal, you put more pressure on yourself for the guy to not be a bust. And if Shedeur Sanders ends up being a bust, if you take him high, the argument's going to be, well, you should have known. Like, look, he was just kind of chill about the whole process and wasn't prepared, allegedly, for these meetings. Gets a pack of plays and gets put up on the whiteboard and doesn't know what to do because he hasn't put any time into it. Meanwhile, the other guys who are trying to be drafted as high as they can be at quarterback were. I think it's that simple. I don't think it's any type of a message to college players generally, other than this. And this message has been true regardless of whether or not players are getting paid. Take the process seriously. You want to show that you're taking it seriously so that they will take you seriously. Because there are plenty of guys, supply outweighs demand, who will take it very seriously. Unless you are a generational talent, you'd better take the process seriously. WRHYS writes, asks this question, is Keenan Allen done? Or is he just waiting for the offseason conditioning programs to be over before he signs somewhere? Well, they're over. Offseason programs are over. I think that this is a situation where he'll sign at or before the start of camp. Part of it is coming to terms with the fact that the days of making $20 million a year are over. He's going to have to take whatever he can get. He may have to wait for an injury to get the kind of money he's looking for. You got to process it. 5 stages of grief. He knows he's getting closer to the end. It would be hard to take another job in the same industry you've worked in your whole career, making a fraction of what you made at the height of your powers. That'd be hard to do. There's got to be a cutoff there. There's got to be a number below which you'll say, I'm not going to do this. And I think every player has that number. Would Keenan Allen really play for the minimum if that's all that's available to him? I don't think so. The Steelers make sense. They still need help at receiver. I know. They've got Robert Woods. And there's talk that Calvin Austin III can be the number 2 receiver across from DK Metcalf. I feel like they still need somebody else. They're taking a hell of a risk. I thought maybe they would consider trading for Allen Lazard. We've addressed that in the past. There's a chance Lazard doesn't want to go there. That Lazard wants to make his own way as a member of the Jets, where they're putting a premium on blocking, which at 6'5", 225 he can do. But Keenan Allen is available. Other receivers are out there. The Steelers need to consider someone like Keenan Allen, and maybe they will, and maybe they'll sign him. But I think he'll be on a team at some point in the first 2 weeks of training camp. I think he will be, if not sooner. Burn unit. What's your prediction for the outcome of the Sunday ticket case, and what's the time frame? The time frame is always longer than you expect. The wheels of justice move slowly. Case in point, the Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL was filed February 1, 2022. We still don't know where the case is going to proceed, whether it's going to be in federal court or in arbitration. 3 and almost a half years later, we still don't know. Now, the trial happened a year ago in the Sunday ticket case. The verdict of $4.7 billion, which would have been multiplied by 3, was thrown out. The damages award was thrown out. The finding of an antitrust violation was not. So that's all on appeal. I think whatever happens, whoever loses is going to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. The NFL will push as hard as it can. The plaintiffs will push. There's too much money at stake. You got about $15 billion at stake here. And there's an effort to get an injunction put in place that would force the NFL to dismantle the current Sunday ticket process. So every appeal is going to be exhausted. And every time you go to the next level up, it takes time. 3 to 5 years. But you know what? If the NFL ever loses this, there's going to be a hell of a bill to pay. Because the NFL was put on notice when that verdict was returned. You got a problem with your Sunday ticket product. And they've done nothing that I'm aware of to change it. They haven't made a single team option available, a single weekend option available, a single game option available. And it's still ridiculously expensive relative to what it could be and arguably what it should be. So I think the NFL has a problem here, and the NFL knows it. But the ace in the hole, and this is not a political comment, this is a comment about political realities. The ace in the hole is the current composition of the U.S. Supreme Court, which is 6-3 conservative, and conservative means business friendly. That means when it's time for the NFL to go before the U.S. Supreme Court, one of the justices actually was gifted a Cowboys Super Bowl ring years ago, and Jerry Jones acts like that's no big deal. We'll see if that justice recuses himself. I doubt it. Right now, the Supreme Court is composed of justices with an ideological mindset that will be useful to the league if and when the case goes to the U.S. Supreme Court. Last question, most important question of the day from Set the Narrative 2, not to be confused with Set the Narrative 1. What music do you listen to? Well, I have a fairly eclectic taste in music. A lot of it's driven by the mood that I'm in. I do most of my listening to music when I'm writing, not PFT, writing one of my books or whatever else I may be working on. I love Bruce Springsteen and this is not the perfunctory sports writer thing. I discovered him just about 6 or 7 years ago. We went to the Broadway show. I was never a fan before that. I've been an intense fan since then. Western Stars is an excellent album, my favorite album of his. Hardly a classic Bruce Springsteen album, but I love that album. Stephen Wilson Jr., I've mentioned him a time or two on Twitter. I don't know if I have written anything on PFT about him. We saw him up in Pittsburgh. I discovered him on Dan Patrick's show last year, Father Son, one of the great songs of all time. We saw him in Pittsburgh. His group was really nice to us. Had a great time there. He's coming to Clarksburg, sister city to Bridgeport, West Virginia in October. Can't wait for that. He's awesome. If you haven't checked out his stuff, Son of Dad is the album. It's got like 30 songs on it, it seems like, and they're all great. There isn't one that you're like, all right, let me skip to the next one. I'll just get through these 3 minutes. I don't want to disrupt the flow of the album, so I'll tolerate this one song that stinks. No, they're all good. And hopefully he'll have another album out sooner rather than later. I think he's got a ton of talent, and he's right at the corner of Bruce Springsteen and Johnny Cash. I like listening to Johnny Cash if I'm in the mood for Johnny Cash. I like listening to some music from the 80s. I was into like kind of the new wavy stuff back in the 80s. I like listening to that if I'm in the mood for it. It all comes down to what mood I'm in. I listen to less and less Kiss, though. I'm really sour on Kiss. I got a lot of great. Matt Casey got me for Christmas or birthday one year these awesome Kiss coasters that are the covers of like their first dozen albums. So I see them every time I go down to my bar. And out of habit, there's one specific one that I use. I was using the cover of Rock and Roll Over as my personal coaster when I was working. I switched it out to the cover of Kiss Alive, the first album I ever bought and loved in 1975, 76 timeframe. But that last concert that they had with the announcement that they're going to have some sort of Avatar show, and that's it. I'm out. 50 years is enough for me. You know, I defended them during the days when people said they have nothing to do with making music. They're all about making money. You know, it was a great show. It was fun. I've seen them 9 or 10 times. I'm out. I reached my lifetime limit. Lifetime limit of fireworks. Lifetime limit of graduation ceremonies. Lifetime limit of Kiss. Sorry, guys. Sorry. You lost me with the avatars. All right. That's it for this Friday edition of PFT PM. We did the Tracksuit Friday at Satrial's, run PFT gear. Got to do that every Friday. We'll see you on Monday. All new edition of PFT PM. Surely there will be some news from over the weekend. Hopefully the news will not involve more speeding tickets for Shedeur Sanders, but time will tell. Have a great weekend. Check us out around the clock at ProFootballTalk.com. See you back here on Monday. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.